Salam, peace be upon you. The Story of Change, Part 12. What is a law? Where we are. We have been building something careful. We started with a cup. The cup was whole. Then the cup was broken. Everyone saw it happen. But we refused to say, time passed, so it changed. That felt too easy, too magical, too hard for strangers to check. Instead, we built folders called state packages. Each folder holds a snapshot of something at one moment. What we looked at, how we looked, what we are allowed to claim, how uncertain we honestly are, and the trail so anyone can repeat our looking. Then we built receipts called update certificates. These receipts prove that one folder legally leads to another folder. They pass through 8 gates, like 8 checkpoints. If a receipt fails a gate, we do not accept it. We write a refusal certificate instead and put it in a special drawer called the negative archive, so we remember what did not work. Then we build an immune system. If we discover an old receipt was wrong, we revoke it. And we revoke everything that depended on it. We call this a revocation dossier. Then we build a graph. Dots are folders. Lines are receipts. The whole drawing is called graph G sub U. We said, a universe is not a place. It is a connected record. Then we built order. Not from clocks, from chains. We said, S1 comes before S2 if you can walk from the first folder to the second folder by stepping along receipt lines. Then we built propagation limits. We said, a change can only spread along paths that have legal receipts with open gates. No distance, no speed. Only connectivity and permission. Now we have many folders, many receipts, many chains, many rules about what changes are allowed. And now we face a new question. The question: where do the rules come from? When we say this change is allowed or this change is not allowed, what are we really saying? In ordinary life, we might say, it's the law. It's how the universe works. But that is just a word. It does not explain anything. We need something more honest, something we can point to, something we can check. So we ask, what is a law, really? The big idea. Here is what we discover. A law is not an equation on paper. A law is a registered machine that turns one folder into another. We call this machine a transformer. A transformer is like a recipe. You put one folder in. If the folder meets all the requirements, the transformer produces another folder. That is the change. That is the law at work. But here is the key. A transformer is not a secret. It is not a mystery. It is a public machine. Anyone can look at it. Anyone can test it. Anyone can see if it works the way it claims. A law is executable discipline. Let us say that slowly because it matters. A law is an executable type transformer that maps certified inputs to certified outputs under gate enforcement. In simpler words, a law is a machine you can run, check, and replay. If you cannot run it and check it, it is not a law. It is only a story. The kitchen recipe example. Imagine a kitchen. In the kitchen, there are recipes. Each recipe is a set of instructions. You put in ingredients, you follow the steps, you get a dish. But not every recipe works for every ingredient. A cake recipe needs flour and eggs and sugar. If you try to put in fish and potatoes, the recipe will not work. It will tell you wrong ingredients. A recipe also needs to know about the cook. Some recipes are for beginners, some require special tools, some take a long time. The recipe must declare what it needs. Now imagine every recipe in the kitchen is written down in a big book. Anyone can look at it, anyone can follow it, anyone can check if the cook followed it correctly. That is what a transformer is, a recipe in a public book, a set of rules for turning one folder into another. The transformer must declare what kind of input folders it accepts, what domain it works in, how much detail it needs, what must stay the same during the change, how to check if it worked, how uncertainty grows, and a complete set of instructions so anyone can replay the change. If it does not declare these things, it is not a real transformer. It is just a wish. The trap. The trap is people believe that if they write something that looks mathematical, it becomes real. They write symbols on a board and feel safe. But we refuse this. We say symbols are not safety. What matters is whether the claim can pass gates. So we do not worship equations. We certify transformers. An equation on paper is like a recipe that says mix things, heat them, something happens. That is not a law. That is poetry. A real law must be something you can run, check, and replay. The transformer declaration. Now we need to be very clear. A transformer is not just any recipe. It is a recipe that comes with a full declaration, like a label on a box. Here is what every transformer must declare. First, input types. What kind of folders can go in? What passport must they have? What domain must they come from? The transformer must say, I only work on folders that look like this. Think of a phone charger. If the plug does not match the phone port, you cannot charge the phone. Not because charging is wrong, but because the input type does not match. Second, domain guards. Where does this transformer apply? In the kitchen, in the garden, in the hospital? The transformer must say, I only work in this domain, with these boundaries, under these cut rules. Think of a bicycle. A bicycle is wonderful on a road, but if you push it into a river and say go, it will not work like a boat. That does not mean bicycles are false. It means they have domain guards. Third, sealing requirements. How much detail does the transformer need? Does it need to see deep structure, or is surface enough? The transformer must say, I need folders with ceiling at least n. If the ceiling is lower, I cannot guarantee the change. Think of tiny writing. If you have blurry glasses, you cannot read the letters. If you pretend you can, you will make up words. The transformer needs sharp enough glasses. Fourth, invariance obligations. What must stay the same during the change? Some things should not change. Mass, charge, some deep pattern. The transformer must say, under this change, these things will not change. And here is how you check. Think of renaming every street in a city by adding the same extra word. The city is still the same city. A good transformer should not care about the new names. It should give the same results. If it changes just because of renaming, it is broken. Fifth, residual tests. How do we know the change worked? We look at what is left over. The leftovers, the residuals, should be small and random. If they are not, something is missing. The transformer must say, after the change, here is how to test the residuals. Here is what counts as passing. Think of buying shoes. You do not just admire the design. You wear them and test. Do they fit? The fit check is the residual test. If the shoes are too tight, they fail. Sixth, uncertainty rule. Every folder has uncertainty. How does that uncertainty grow when we apply the transformer? The transformer must say, if the input uncertainty is U, then the output uncertainty will be this much larger. Think of pouring water from one cup to another. You might spill some. You must account for it. Uncertainty is like that. It must be tracked. Seventh, audit recipe. This is the most important part. The transformer must include a complete set of instructions, so anyone, any stranger anywhere, can replay the change and check that it was done correctly. The audit recipe must include everything: what measurements to take, what calculations to do, what gates to check. Think of a bus route. It is not just a drawing on a map. It is a working service with stops, schedules, tickets, inspectors, and repair notices. Anyone can ride the bus and check that it follows the route. Eighth, failure modes and downgrades. A good law does not pretend it never fails. It declares how it fails. And it declares what honest, weaker statements are still allowed. Think of a recipe that says, if you do not have eggs, you can still make a simpler cake. It will not be as good, but it will still be cake. That is a downgrade. The transformer should offer the same honesty. The bridge builder example. Imagine a town with a river. A bridge builder wants to build a bridge. But before building, the builder must register with the town. The builder must declare, what kind of bridge? For cars, for trains, for people walking? Where will it go? Which banks does it connect? How strong must it be? What weight must it hold? What materials will be used? Wood, steel, stone? How will we test it? Who will check it is safe? How long will it last? When must we inspect it? The town keeps a registry of bridge builders. Each builder has a file. The file says what kind of bridges they build, what materials they use, what tests they perform. If a builder tries to build a bridge without being in the registry, the town says no. If a builder tries to build a bridge that does not match their declared type, the town says no. That is exactly how transformers work. They are registered. They declare what they do. They are only used for what they declare. The 8 gates revisited. Remember the 8 gates? They are the checkpoints every update certificate must pass. Now we see why transformers matter for the gates. Gate 5 is sealing honesty. The transformer declares a sealing requirement. If the input folder does not have enough detail, if its sealing is too low, Gate 5 fails. The change is refused. Gate 4 is invariant safety. The transformer declares what must stay the same. Gate 4 checks that those things did stay the same. If they changed, the gate fails. Gate 6 is uncertainty propagation. The transformer declares how uncertainty grows. Gate 6 checks that the actual uncertainty matches the declared rule. If it is larger than allowed, the gate fails. Gate 7 is audit sufficiency. The transformer declares an audit recipe. Gate 7 checks that the recipe is complete and that someone followed it. If the audit is missing or incomplete, the gate fails. Gate 8 is the primitive ban. The transformer cannot introduce new magic. It cannot use distance or speed as primitives without earning them. It cannot smuggle in unregistered concepts. Gate 8 checks for smuggling. So the transformer is not separate from the gates. The transformer is where the gates get their rules. The gates are the checkpoints. The transformer is the rulebook the checkpoints enforce. The registry. Now we have something new, a transformer registry. The registry is a public book. It contains every registered transformer with its full declaration. Each entry has a name, a version, and a hash, a fingerprint, so we know it has not been changed. The registry is not a secret. Anyone can read it. Anyone can test a transformer against its declaration. Anyone can propose a new transformer, but it must pass all gates before being added. The registry is how we know what laws exist. If it is not in the registry, it is not a law. It is a story. Think of a city with public buses. Each bus route is in a book. The book says route number, stops, schedule, fare. If a bus drives around without being in the book, you do not know where it goes or when it comes. You cannot trust it. Our registry is that book. Every transformer is a bus route. Registered, declared, checkable. How transformers connect to update certificates. Remember part 6. The update certificate is the public object of change. Now part 12 tells us what sits inside every update certificate. A transformer identity and version. So a valid update certificate must point to the transformer name and version, the transformer's domain guard conditions, the residual test report showing the change fit, the uncertainty propagation trace showing error was tracked, the audit recipe showing how to replay the change. This is how law becomes infrastructure, not a slogan. Every change points to the law that made it. The stress test. Renaming everything. Now we do our stress test again, because it protects against cheating. Suppose we rename everything. We add the same extra label to every folder. Phi goes to phi plus C. Does a properly written transformer care about the new labels? No, because a properly written transformer depends on structure, not on names. It uses differences, not absolute values. It uses comparisons, not fixed points. If a transformer's output changes when we rename everything, then the transformer is broken. It depends on labels, not on real structure. It fails its invariance obligation. It cannot be registered. This is how we check that transformers are real. They must survive the rename everything test. Think of a weighing scale. If you put an apple on it, it says 100 grams. If you paint the apple red, it still says 100 grams. If it said 120 grams after painting, the scale would be broken. Transformers must be like that scale. They respond to reality, not to labels. The predictions. Now we make predictions, not prophecies. Predictions like receipts, things we can check. Prediction 1. Any claimed law that cannot be written as a full transformer declaration with input types, domain guards, sealing requirements, invariance obligations, residual tests, uncertainty rules, audit recipe, and failure modes will fail gate 7. It will be refused. Prediction 2. If two teams run the same registered transformer version on equivalent folders, equivalent within uncertainty, then the outputs must match within uncertainty. If they do not, the transformer declaration is incomplete or the implementation is wrong. Prediction 3. A transformer that fails the rename everything test, whose output changes when phi goes to phi plus C, violates its invariance obligation and must be revoked. Prediction 4. If a transformer is used outside its declared domain, the domain guard will fail and produce a refusal certificate. No exceptions. Prediction 5. If a transformer's uncertainty rule is wrong, if actual uncertainty grows more than declared, Then any update certificate using it will fail gate 6 when audited. These are simple. They can be tested, they can be audited. The failure signatures. Now we list the ways transformers can fail. Each failure produces a refusal certificate that goes into the negative archive. Failure 1. Wrong input type. The folder put into the transformer does not match what the transformer declared. Gate 1 or 2 fails. Failure 2. Domain violation. The folder comes from outside the transformer's declared domain. The boundary is wrong. The cut is wrong. Domain guard fails. Failure 3. Ceiling too low. The folder does not have enough detail. The transformer needs deeper structure than the folder provides. Gate 5 fails. Failure 4. Invariance broken. Something that should not change did change. Mass moved. Charge disappeared. Or the transformer failed the rename everything test. Gate 4 fails. Failure 5. Residuals too large. After applying the transformer, the leftovers are not small and random. Something is missing. The residual test fails. Failure 6. Uncertainty mismatch. The output uncertainty is larger than the transformer declared. Gate 6 fails. Failure 7. Audit incomplete. The transformer's audit recipe was not followed, or the recipe itself is missing steps. Gate 7 fails. Failure 8. Primitive smuggling. The transformer uses distance or speed as primitives without earning them, or it uses unregistered concepts. Gate 8 fails. Failure 9. Hidden heuristics. The transformer depends on unlocked choices or private rules that others cannot see. Failure 10. True mystery. After all checks, a transformer produces results that cannot be explained. We do not ignore it. We log it as an escape candidate for later layers to examine. The revocation clause. Now the revocation clause. Calm and strong. Any transformer is revoked if its declaration is found to be incomplete or wrong. It fails the rename everything test. It is used outside its domain and the domain guard was bypassed. Its uncertainty rule is proven false. Its audit recipe cannot be followed. It depends on unlocked heuristics or private choices. It depends on a revoked transformer. It smuggles primitives that were not declared. When any of these happen, we do not argue. We revoke. We write a revocation dossier and put it in the archive. We remove the transformer from the registry. Any update certificate that used it is also revoked and must be re-audited. Think of a bridge that fails inspection. You do not keep using it. You close it. You post a notice. You investigate. You either fix it or take it down. That is revocation. The child who understands. Imagine a child listening to this story. The child says, "So a law is like a recipe in a cookbook?" And we say, "Yes, a recipe you can follow, check, and replay." The child says, "And the registry is like the cookbook shelf?" And we say, "Exactly. Every recipe is there for anyone to see." The child says, "And each recipe says what ingredients it needs, what tools, and how to know if it worked?" And we say, "Yes, that is the declaration. Input types, domain guards, ceiling requirements, invariance obligations, residual tests, uncertainty rules, audit recipe, failure modes." The child says, "And if someone tries to use a recipe that's not in the book, we say no?" And we say, "Yes. Because we cannot check it. We cannot replay it. It might be magic pretending to be law." The child says, "And if a recipe is wrong, if it doesn't work, we take it out?" And we say, "Yes. We revoke it. and everything that used it gets checked again. The child says, "This is like having rules for rules, like making sure the rules are honest." And we say, "Yes, that is exactly what it is." The child says, "And the rename everything test. That's like checking if the recipe cares about the color of the bowl instead of what's inside." And we say, "Yes, a good law cares about what is real, not what things are called." The child says, "So a law is not a magic word. It is a working machine with a manual and a test report." And we say, "Yes, that is the best way to say it." The main lesson. Let us say it one more time, in the simplest words we can find. A law is not a magic sentence. A law is a registered machine that turns one folder into another, with everything declared so anyone can check. That is it. No mystery, no hidden forces, just public recipes that anyone can run, test, and replay. If it cannot be run, it is not a law. If it cannot be checked, it is not a law. If it cannot be replayed, it is not a law. The bus route, the recipe, and the registry. Imagine again the city with public buses. Each bus route is in a book. The book says, route number 42, stops at these places, runs every 20 minutes, costs 2 tokens, inspected monthly. When you ride the bus, you can check, is it stopping where it should? Is it on time? Is the fare correct? If something is wrong, you can report it. The route might be fixed or revoked. That is our world now. Every transformer is a bus route. Every change is a bus ride. Every audit is an inspector checking. Not magic, not mystery, just registered routes and honest inspections. What comes next? Now we have transformers. We have a registry. We have a way to turn laws from mysterious equations into public machines that anyone can run and check. We have predictions that can be tested. We have failure signatures that tell us exactly why a claim might be refused. We have revocation rules that keep the system honest. Next, we will ask, how do transformers combine? How do we build complex changes from simple ones? How do we know when a transformer is the right one for a situation? Those are for later parts. For now, we rest here. We have laws as registered machines. We have declarations that make laws checkable. We have a registry that keeps them public. And we built it all from one simple idea. A law is an executable typed transformer that maps certified inputs to certified outputs under gate enforcement. That is PAL 12. That is what a law is. That is our story so far. Always, peace be upon you.